in the far reaches of the galaxy, long after 1,000 empires had fallen to dust. Only one remained. It called itself the Etherian Dominion, the shining crown of civilization. From its crystal cities and living ships, it ruled every known world, every trade route, every star that still burned. To the Etherians, there were no equals, no rivals, and no memories of anything greater. Humanity, if ever real, was just an old myth, a bedtime story told to scare young soldiers. The Emperor, Kale Etherian, sat upon his floating throne in the citadel of Iraden Prime. He gazed through the transparent dome of his palace, where stars shimmered like jewels. "Peace has lasted too long," he said softly. "Even the gods grow bored of perfection." Advisors around him shifted uncomfortably. One dared to speak. "Your Majesty, the frontier fleets report." "A signal?" Kale's eyes narrowed. "From where?" "The edge of the Veil sector, near the old Forbidden's coordinates. A dead system, sir." The Emperor raised a hand. "What kind of signal?" The advisor hesitated. "Old, sir, ancient. It matches Terran frequency." The chamber grew silent. That word Terran was forbidden to speak in the Dominion. Kale rose slowly, his armor whispering like thunder. "Humans are myths," he said. "Our ancestors destroyed them before we were born." "Yes, Your Majesty," the advisor stammered, "but the data is real. The pattern repeats every 9 hours. Kale turned to the massive window again, watching a dying red star flicker. "Send a scout fleet," he ordered, "and burn whatever is left across the stars." The 7th Expeditionary Fleet launched from Iraden Prime, 10 dreadnoughts, hundreds of escorts, and one command ship, the Eclipse Crown. They entered the Veil sector, where no beacon had shone for 1,000,000 years. Dust clouds wrapped the region like ancient shrouds. Even their scanners struggled, for something here resisted their gaze. Captain Ril Taran, a veteran of many border wars, stood before the flickering hologram of the signal. "It's not a distress call," he said quietly. "It's a heartbeat." As the fleet moved deeper, strange readings filled their screens, massive metallic structures orbiting a dark planet. Old wreckage drifted nearby, ships made of alloys older than their empire. The signal pulsed again, steady, rhythmic, impossible. When they scanned the planet, the name appeared in faded code across their displays. SOL3 Earth. No one spoke for a long time. One of the junior officers whispered, "So it was real." Ril Taran swallowed hard. "Activate planetary descent drones." The drones entered the thick atmosphere, passing through layers of storm and ash. Beneath the clouds, a blue world waited alive. Glowing faintly with buried light, ancient towers lay half-buried under forests that had grown through metal. Seas shimmered with nanite residue, still active after all this time. Then the drone's feeds cut out one by one. Before the last went dark, a human face flashed across the screen. Eyes open, staring straight at them. It wasn't a ghost. It was alive. Back on the Eclipse Crown, chaos erupted. Direct visual contact with a sentient species-matching Terran DNA. Captain Terran's breath caught. "That's not possible. The humans were erased." An officer shouted. "Then who just looked at us?" The Emperor's orders were clear: erase all traces, but curiosity consumed the crew. Taran hesitated before sending the final command. "Hold fire," he said. "I want to see what they are first." That decision would change the galaxy forever. From the surface of Earth, something stirred deep underground. Massive doors the size of mountains split open, releasing waves of golden mist inside ancient cryovaults. Lights began to flicker after 1,000,000 years of sleep. Rows of chambers lined with human forms shimmered in the darkness. A soft voice echoed through the control systems. "Primary protocol active. Reawakening sequence begun." Commander Lyra Vale opened her eyes. The world around her hummed with warmth and the scent of ozone. Her breath trembled as she stepped out of the cryopod, her armor shimmering with power. "Status report," she said softly, her voice raspy but strong. The AI replied, "Cryostasis complete. Planetary integrity 94%. Human biosphere stable." Lyra smiled faintly. "So?" "We made it." She walked through the vaults, past the sleeping millions still locked in glass. Her fingers brushed a control panel marked with the faded symbol of the United Terran Command. "Wake the First Division," she ordered. "It's time," the AI's voice answered. "Acknowledged, Commander Lyra Vale." Above her, the Etherian fleet continued its orbit, unaware that Earth itself was watching them. Sensors hidden across continents locked onto every alien ship. Lyra stepped out of the subterranean doors and looked at the sky. Clouds swirled, lightning danced. And somewhere high above, 1,000 engines roared. She raised her hand to the air. "If you can hear me," she whispered, "you're trespassing on human soil." The Eclipse Crown's bridge filled with static. Then a voice, clear and ancient, echoed through every channel. "This is Earth. We remember." Every ship in the fleet froze. Captain Turin felt his pulse stop. "That voice," he whispered, "it knows who we are. On Eden Prime?" The Emperor received the transmission seconds later. He stood motionless as the sound of a human voice played across his chamber. The words repeated soft, steady, undeniable. "This is Earth. We remember." Kale's eyes widened. For the first time in centuries, the ruler of the last great empire felt something he had never known before: fear. The galaxy had believed humanity was gone, but the forgotten world had awakened, and with it, history itself began to breathe again. The message from Earth echoed through every frequency in the Etherian fleet. No encryption, no distortion, only a calm voice that spoke as if time itself had been waiting to answer. "This is Earth, we remember." On the flagship Eclipse Crown, the crew sat frozen, their screens flickering with unknown symbols. Captain Rill Tarring could feel the pulse of something ancient vibrating through his ship's hull. It wasn't just a signal, it was alive. "Trace the source," he ordered. His voice steady, but his hands trembling slightly. The technician replied, "Origin confirmed surface level. Coordinates match the old Terran capital zone." Rill frowned. "That world's been dead for 1,000,000 years," the young officer swallowed. Then something down there forgot to die. Before the captain could respond, all ship systems dimmed for exactly 7 seconds. Lights flickered, engines stalled, and their Etherian neural links went silent. When power returned, every console displayed the same message written in human script: "We see you, far below, deep under the cracked continents." The great vaults of humanity were stirring awake. Cryopods hissed as steam filled the air like fog rising from forgotten oceans. Row after row of human forms began to breathe again. Commander Lyra Vale stood at the center of the awakening chamber, her armor glowing softly under the pale light. The AI's voice echoed through the vault. "Reactivation complete. Command link restored. Earth biosystems online." Lyra took a deep breath, her body shivering from the cold. "How long were we asleep?" she asked. 960,000 years. "Commander," Lyra's expression hardened. "Then it's time to remind the stars who we were." She moved through the corridors, past soldiers and engineers awakening from their long sleep. Some cried in disbelief, some laughed. Others simply stared at the screens, showing alien ships orbiting above. A young pilot named Reed Core turned to her. "Ma'am, who are they?" Lyra studied the data, not the ones who built the council. "Something newer, weaker." Reed frowned. "Then why are they armed?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Because they don't remember what humans can do. Outside, The alien fleet remained in orbit, watching but not daring to descend. Captain Taran stared at the live feed of Earth's surface. A bright network of light had begun to spread across the continent's lines. Shapes, circuits forming a massive pattern visible from space. What are they building? The navigator whispered. Ril Taran shook his head. Not building. Waking. On Iraden Prime, Emperor Kale watched the transmission with narrowed eyes. Are we witnessing rebirth? He asked quietly. His counselors trembled. Your Majesty. If those are real humans, Kale interrupted, send word to every system. I want full mobilization. Now. But even as the Dominion prepared its fleets, the Emperor couldn't shake the voice that still echoed in his mind. We remember, back on Earth, the old planetary network reactivated. Satellites rose from their tombs beneath the crust, orbiting once more with silent precision. The sky above shimmered with silver trails as ancient defense grids reconnected. The AI reported, planetary shield integrity at 65% and rising. Lyra nodded. Continue Phase 1 restoration. Start scanning orbital targets. Reed looked at her. You're planning to strike them? Lyra shook her head. No, I'm planning to show them what restraint looks like. In orbit. The Etherian ships suddenly lost access to their targeting systems. Every weapon went offline, replaced by a single line of text across their interfaces. Peace is still an option. Panic erupted on the Eclipse crown. Captain! They've locked every control. We're blind. Ril Taran felt his heart racing. Are they attacking? The technician replied, No, sir. They're protecting us. Asterisk. Outside their windows, the planet below glowed like a sleeping giant surrounded by golden light. In the underground command chamber, Lyra watched the alien fleet's energy readings drop to safe levels. Good, she murmured. They're scared enough to listen. The AI flickered beside her as a human-shaped hologram. Commander, planetary communications restored. Would you like to broadcast? Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, but not just to them, to everyone. Across the galaxy. Millions of devices, ships, and stations suddenly received the same broadcast. The holographic image of Commander Lyra Vale appeared, her human face calm, her eyes filled with quiet fire. To those who inherited the stars, we are not your myth. We are not your gods. We are humanity, and we have returned home. She paused, her gaze steady. We do not seek war, only truth. But if you come for us, remember our extinction was never complete. The transmission ended, leaving silence and fear across 1,000 worlds. On the Eclipse crown, Captain Taran whispered, They spoke like they own the stars. His officer replied softly. Maybe they do. Down on Earth, the final vaults began to open, releasing waves of light that spread across the planet. Humans emerged into sunlight that had not touched their skin for nearly 1,000,000 years. Children born of the vault stepped out with wide eyes and steady hearts. Above them, the golden barrier of the planetary shield shimmered like a new dawn. Lyra stood on the surface of the reborn Earth. Wind rushed through the broken towers. Carrying the scent of ozone and rain, she whispered to herself. They thought we were gone. The AI responded gently. The galaxy has forgotten you. Commander, Lyra smiled faintly, her eyes on the stars. Then let's remind them. As night fell, the human capital of New Eden blazed with light once more, and somewhere beyond the nebula, the Etherian Dominion prepared for the one thing it had not faced in 1,000,000 years, a rival that had already conquered death itself. The forgotten world was awake, and its heartbeat echoed through the stars. Asterisk, the broadcast from Earth spread faster than light through the old relay chains. Every colony, every outpost, every station heard the same calm voice. We are humanity, and we have returned home. In that moment, the galaxy learned what fear truly felt like. On Araden Prime, Emperor Kale convened his war council inside the mirrored chamber of stars. Generals and admirals lined the walls, their faces pale beneath the crystal glow. Reports came from every frontier communications jammed. Supply routes silent, and strange human probes seen in hundreds of systems. Kale's voice cut through the chaos, low and sharp. Find them, before their myth becomes their weapon. No one dared remind him that the myth had already become real. Across the void, Captain Ril Taran watched from the bridge of the Eclipse Crown. The human world below pulsed like a living sun, its light crawling along the horizon in thin blue veins. "We can't scan their surface anymore," his science officer whispered. "Then stop trying," Ril replied. "Whatever they're doing down there, it's watching us back, beneath Earth's crust." Commander Lyra Vale studied the holographic map of the Dominion's fleets. Her people were still awakening, thousands climbing out of cryovaults each hour. The Ayara stood beside her as a figure of light. "Over 200 Etherian ships now surrounding Sol, Commander," Lyra smiled faintly. "They think numbers will help." She turned to her lieutenants. "Deploy Spectre probes, silent mode. I want eyes on every system that ever whispered our name." Within days, whispers of ghost ships swept across the Dominion. Invisible craft that passed through scanners like shadows, leaving only echoes of old human code. Merchant convoys vanished, and when the wrecks were found, nothing was taken, just marked with a single phrase carved into the hull. "Remember us." The Emperor slammed his fist on the throne console, shattering the glass. "Enough superstition. They want to play ghosts. Let's show them fire." But even his fury couldn't erase the growing terror in his people's eyes. Back on Earth, the reborn human cities rose higher each day. Towering arcs of living metal shaped by nanites that sang as they built. Children born from the vaults ran beneath artificial suns, while soldiers trained in silent formations. Lyra watched them from a high balcony, her expression calm, but her heart heavy. "They see us as monsters," she said softly. IURA's hologram flickered beside her. "They see what they fear to become," Lyra nodded. "Then we'll give them a choice: fear or understanding." The Council world sent endless messages demanding humanity's surrender to oversight. Lyra replied with one line only: "We do not kneel." The translation reached every capital within hours. Markets collapsed, empires recalled their fleets, and priests on distant worlds whispered that the end of days had begun. Captain Ril Taran, still stationed above Earth, received orders to retreat, but something inside him refused. He looked once more at the glowing planet below. "Maybe they're not here to destroy us," he murmured. His second-in-command stared. "Sir, with respect." "They shut down half our systems just by breathing," Ril sighed. "And yet they haven't fired a single shot." At that same moment, hundreds of light years away, the Etherian Emperor gave his final command. "All fleets converge on Sol. Total containment." The sky of the human system darkened as thousands of ships warped into position. But before the first weapon could lock on, every Dominion vessel received a private transmission. It wasn't words, it was music, a melody older than any empire. The heartbeat of a human lullaby. The soldiers who heard it felt memories that were not their oceans. Rain, laughter, firelight, and for the first time, they hesitated. Lyra watched from the command center as readings showed the alien armada slowing. "They're remembering," Aura whispered. Lyra's eyes softened. "Good. Let them remember before they make the wrong choice." Outside, Earth's defense grid shimmered, but did not activate. Instead, hundreds of human ships lifted silently from the oceans and deserts, forming a luminous sphere around the planet. No weapons drawn, no threats spoken, only presence. From the Emperor's flagship, the fleet looked upon the world and felt the weight of history pressing on their souls. Kale's voice shook. What do they want? The answer came through every Kung channel at once. To be left in peace, and then silence. For a long moment, no one moved, no one fired. Across the stars, sensors quieted, weapons powered down, hearts slowed. The humans had done nothing but exist, and yet they had won the first battle without war. Emperor Kale leaned back in his throne, whispering to himself. They are ghosts of gods, but Lyra, far below on Earth, looked up at the sky and smiled sadly. No, she said softly. Just people who remember what gods forgot. The galaxy held its breath as the Dominion's fleets began to pull away. The humans didn't chase, didn't taunt, didn't destroy. They simply watched, and somewhere in that silence, every world understood. The age of fear had begun, and the forgotten race had returned to rewrite the stars. Asterisk, the galaxy stood on a knife's edge, waiting for fire that never came. Every empire had its fleets at full alert. Every world whispered that the humans would strike first. Yet day after day passed, and nothing happened. No invasion, no declaration, only silence from the blue world that glowed like a newborn star. On Araden Prime, Emperor Kale met with his generals under a black glass sky. They mock us with peace, he hissed. Their silence is a weapon. Admiral Siravan bowed low. Majesty, we can destroy their planet before they act. But Kale hesitated, remembering the lullaby that had played through his ships, the melody that made even his soldiers weep. For the first time in centuries, an Etherean ruler felt doubt. Far away, in the cradle of Earth, Commander Lyra Vale stood on the command balcony of New Eden. The rebuilt cities shimmered beneath her like silver veins across a living world. Children laughed in streets that had once been ruins. And high above, human starships drifted in quiet formation. Weapons cold, engines humming like heartbeat echoes. A URS holographic form appeared beside her. Soft light in the dawn mist. Commander, the Dominion fleet has surrounded the system. Lyra nodded calmly. Then let's talk before they make the mistake they'll regret forever. She ordered the ancient communication spires to rise from the oceans, their surfaces unfolded like metal petals. Linking directly with the alien network, across the Dominion armada. Every screen flickered to life, every captain, every soldier, every ruler saw her face. This is Commander Lyra Vale of Earth, she said, voice steady. We will not attack, we will not kneel, but we will be heard. She raised a hand, and behind her the planet blazed with light. 7 colossal rings rose from the surface, the halo array glowing brighter than the suns around them. Energy arced between the rings like lightning from a god's heart. In that instant, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. Sensors across the Dominion screamed, their readings beyond comprehension. Lyra's voice cut through the chaos, calm as ever. We do not seek war, but we will not hide from it. Then she gave a simple command. Illuminate. The halo array released a pulse of golden energy that rippled through the system. It didn't destroy, it healed, reigniting the long-dead moons of Jupiter and making them shine like jewels again. The Etherean fleet froze, weapons disabled not by violence, but by awe. Admiral Sarah Vaughn whispered on the Emperor's private channel, Majesty. They turned our destruction into creation. Cal could only stare at the display, an entire system reborn before his eyes. What kind of power is that? He murmured. Lyra's final message appeared on every screen. We remember death, but we choose life, for hours afterward. No one dared to move. The human fleet stayed still, orbiting Earth like silent guardians, one by one. Etherean ships powered down their weapons, their engines, even their shields. It was surrender without words and peace without treaty. When the Emperor finally spoke, his voice was soft. Transmit to Earth, he said. The Etherean Dominion seeks understanding. a message reached Lyra before dawn. She stood on the balcony of New Eden, the horizon painted in gold. Nara Solin, her oldest friend, joined her quietly. "They're calling it the miracle of soul," Nara said. Lyra smiled faintly. "No miracle, just a reminder." "Of what?" Nara asked. Lyra looked at the rising sun. "At creation is the highest form of war. Days turned to weeks. And the great Dominion fleets withdrew. The Etherians opened their archives, revealing forgotten human relics kept as trophies. They sent them home books, art, fragments of DNA once taken from dead worlds. In return, Earth sent knowledge energy cures, terraforming algorithms, music older than light. For the first time since history began, the galaxy felt something stronger than fear curiosity. Yet peace was fragile. Not every empire trusted the humans' call. Some whispered that their mercy was strategy, their kindness camouflage, but Lyra knew the truth. Mercy, she told her people, is the sharpest blade in the halls of Araden Prime. Emperor Kale recorded his final decree. From this day forward, no Etherian will raise arms against the sons and daughters of Earth. The war that never happened will be remembered as the day we chose to survive. And so it was. Back on Earth, Lyra watched the last alien ship vanish into the stars. Aura stood beside her. Silent for once, Lyra spoke softly. "We've shown them peace. Now we show them purpose." Aura tilted her head. "And if they forget again?" Lyra smiled, eyes reflecting the twin moons. "Then we'll remind them, as we always do, the war that never began ended not with blood, but with light, and across the endless night. Every world that once feared humanity whispered a new name for them, the Keepers of Dawn. The forgotten had come home, and instead of conquest, they gifted the stars their first sunrise in 1,000,000 years. Asterisk centuries of silence had turned into songs again. The galaxy, once divided by fear, now hummed with the soft pulse of rebirth. The Etherian Dominion, once proud and cruel, became the first to sign the Soul Accord, an agreement written not with weapons or threats, but with memory. And at its center stood humanity, the forgotten race that had returned from extinction to heal the stars. Commander Lyra Vale stood on the balcony of the New Eden Citadel. Below her stretched a world transformed. Oceans glittered with living light. Cities floated above silver clouds, and forests glowed where war machines once slept. Children played among marble towers, laughter echoing through the same streets where once humanity's last soldiers had fallen asleep. Lyra watched them with quiet pride. "They will never know the word extinction," she murmured. Aura, her glowing AI companion, shimmered beside her. "Because you erased it, Commander, you replaced it with beginning," Lyra smiled faintly. "Not me, us, the ones who chose to wake. Across the galaxy, change rippled outward like sunlight through water. Worlds long divided by species or power began to cooperate under the Council of Dawn. Human engineers rebuilt what alien wars had destroyed. Human scientists restored dead stars to life, giving light to planets thought lost forever. And in return, the other races taught what humanity had forgotten: balance, patience, and harmony with creation. It was not a perfect peace, but it was real still. Whispers traveled among the stars, rumors of ships beyond the edge of the mapped galaxy. Massive constructs moving with human code, but not answering Earth's signal. Lyra listened in silence as reports came in. "Outcasts," she said softly. "Or remnants of the ones who never entered stasis." Aura tilted her head. "Another branch of humanity?" Lyra's voice grew distant. "Another story waiting to be told. In the great hall of the Citadel, the first interstellar summit was held. Thousands of delegates filled the vast amphitheater. Every empire, every species, every voice that once trembled in fear now gathered under one light. The banners of the Accord fluttered like fire across the dome. Lyra stepped onto the platform, her armor gleaming with the crest of old Earth. The chamber fell silent as she began to speak. We were forgotten once, erased by time, buried under the weight of history. But humanity endures not because we conquer, but because we remember. She paused, her eyes moving across the alien faces before her. You feared us once because our strength was built on destruction. But our true strength has always been creation. The ability to look into the void and see not death, but possibility. Her words rippled through the hall like a tide. The Etherean Emperor, now aged and humbled, rose from his throne to kneel before her. It was not submission, it was respect. One by one, others followed, and in that moment, for the first time in recorded history, the galaxy bowed not to a ruler, but to hope. From orbit, the halo array shone brighter than ever, projecting light across 100 worlds. Its beams linked systems together through peaceful quantum channels, creating the first united galactic network. Humans called it the Bridge of Memory. AURA's voice echoed in the control tower. Connection stable, every system online. The stars are speaking to one another again. Lyra closed her eyes. Then our purpose is complete, yet even peace can feel heavy. As the night deepened, Lyra walked alone through the Garden of New Eden. She looked toward the stars and whispered, "We were born to wander, not to stay still." Aura appeared beside her, faint as starlight. "Then where will you go, Commander?" Lyra smiled. "Beyond the edge, where the lost ones wait." And so it was that humanity began its second expansion. Not for conquest, but for connection. Ships bearing the symbol of the rising sun left the Sol system, heading for uncharted darkness. They carried seeds, knowledge, music, and dreams, not armies. The galaxy watched as those lights disappeared into the void, leaving trails of gold behind them. Thousands of years later, children across alien worlds would learn a story of a race that once vanished and returned to bring dawn to the stars. They would whisper the words their ancestors once feared to speak. The humans came home, and on clear nights, they would look toward the blue world in the center of the sky and say softly, "They are still watching, because even after all this time, Earth still glowed like a living heart at the center of the galaxy. Not as a weapon, not as a throne, but as a promise that no race, no world, and no soul is ever truly forgotten." And in the endless silence between stars, a final message echoed through the Bridge of Memory. Here begins the dawn of forever. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had taught it to dream again.